All right, guys, got some major, well, not major, yeah, I guess, yeah, major breaking news. College football recap. Week, what is this now? I don't even know what week it is. It's been a long day. It's week 6, college football. Yeah, I should know that. But recording this, obviously, this isn't live, so it's not the actual normal show. But yeah, I got some pretty significant breaking news, recapping all the bigger games from the day and major games. Um, got some shockers in there for sure. Some ones that some folks got right, some of us did not even see coming. But yeah, I got a lot of things to go over and discuss here on the recap here for New Year. We do these only on YouTube, so this is out on Spotify. This is not a live stream. So yeah, just be sure to. I'll put this out on Twitter probably at some point. A link to the video when it's going to premiere. I think probably tomorrow morning. But so right now I'm filming this at about 20 minutes until midnight. But yeah, so I guess to get started here, again, this is not the traditional show, so a bit of a off-script situation. But let's see here. I guess it's not buried to lead. Penn State 42, UCLA 42, Penn State 37. When I put this on the upset alert on the Thursday show, I did it as a joke because I saw Bordeaux, the college football video game guy, did a rebuild on Penn State on earlier in the week, and he lost to UCLA in his first game he hopped into. And I put it in there as a joke. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a video game, it's not real life. Well, turns out maybe EA was saying something about this game because they lost. Now, I grant you that was user error for the most part, but they lost the game. Credit to UCLA, credit to that whole cobbled together skeleton staff. May I remind you, this is the same UCLA team, at least the same players and whatnot, that got destroyed by one of the New Mexico schools, I believe. I believe it was New Mexico, like a month ago. And they beat Penn State, a team that was at one point people had them in the top 2, top 3 in the country in the polls. We had them up there in the in our own poll that we do on Thursday or on Tuesday. But excuse me, hats off to the whole staff there. Jerry Neuheisel, the new OC who got there like 2 days ago. Just insane that he was able to do all that. The offense looks completely different than it has all season long for UCLA. Now, some of that was their fault, some of it not their fault, or at least not like because of them. But yeah, shout out to Nico as well. Nico Ilamiofa. I mean, he looked great, man. He even ran the ball a lot, which is something that he did not do a whole lot at Tennessee last year, which I thought he was going to do a whole lot more of. But hats off to them, man. But for Penn State, sent this on Twitter, and I'll kind of repeat what I just said. Let me go find it. Again, as you can tell, this is not a formal show. This is kind of us, just kind of me rambling on here. But I'm going to go and put what I actually said. Yeah, so I put on Twitter X earlier after the game was over saying, quote, well, I'm quoting myself here, Penn State died last week. We have entered a new and uncharted territory with him, James Franklin. Some would say it started with the Oregon loss. And, yeah, I think that's completely true. He's not getting fired, obviously. Now, I know there's a lot of folks who are calling for it. I'm not doing that here. But here's what I'm going to say about Penn State right now. They look lost. I don't know what it is. They just look lost. In my opinion, they kind of quit today about, looking like they totally, let go of the rope. But college football, man, it's college football, and a lot of weird things can happen for Penn State and Franklin. What I think is interesting for them is they better hope that this doesn't spiral off control. You've lost 2 in a row. Now look at their schedule. Pull it up here as we're not live, but we're recording this at the moment to premiere later. But look at their schedule here. So they have Northwestern. They come back home. That's great. Totally not going to be a hostile crowd at home. So they get Northwestern, Iowa, then they get a bye week, and then you get Ohio State. It doesn't. It gets somewhat easier, but then again, you lost to UCLA on the road. And again, not a lot of folks, including me, were taking it seriously outside of VA Sports. So, It's just going back to what I said in the summer, and I'm not gonna bash on Penn State. Other folks can do that. But like I said over the summer, man, if this season spirals out of control and you're wasting two running backs, are going to be, I still think they're going to be really good. At least in the pro game, they'll be highly commoditive in the NFL draft in the spring. But if you waste that talent and not being able to take advantage now of having a relatively simple schedule outside of two really important games, Ohio State and Oregon, you've already filled one of them, and you lost one that a lot of folks back in like May and spring were not circling as an upset alert type game. Like I said over the summer, Penn State folks and folks in the industry are not going to forgive James Franklin. That's starting to happen now. That's not just me saying that. It's other folks saying that now. And look, he's not getting fired. Whatever happens in the future happens. If he leaves, takes a different job, he resigns in the future, or maybe at some point they do fire him. I don't know, but I do think, like I said on Twitter, like I think we've entered a new territory for him that we've never seen before. And this is different, by the way, from his other years. I mean, you can look at his schedule. That's schedule. We just looked at the schedule. You can tell it's 11:50 at night. Kind of tired here, but figured we would record this. But this is different than going 4-5 during the 2020 year. That's different. That's not an analog for this year. That's different too than the first couple years it was there. Nor is it the same as the 7-6 year in 2021. This is different. Okay, this is not the team in 2020 again. 2020, whatever. That's a year a lot of folks are going to forget for a lot of reasons, except for maybe if you're a Ohio State fan or a Bama fan. But 2021, 2014, and 15, those are not comparable to this year. Those did not have the same expectations as this year had. This year was national championship, playoff, returning, taking advantage of a really, really simple schedule in terms of you had two Super Bowl games on your schedule that you should have taken advantage of. At least one of them, Oregon last week, you didn't. And now you've lost two in a row. So that loss last week turned into two losses. Now you get 2-for-1 special. Like I said, this fan base and this industry of college football is not going to forgive James Franklin. They are not going to forgive him for this, for failing this. And this is something he's going to live with for the rest of his life. And it sucks. And, my opinion of him has not changed as a head coach, as a person. But for folks it has, and, that just is what it is sometimes. And it happens to a lot of coaches. Go look at Les Miles at LSU. He won a national championship. He still got fired. So it doesn't matter in this business. It's all about winning losses, and I understand that, and I'm sure James understands that. But, again, like I said, my opinion of him has not changed. Other folks, maybe that's the case. But, again, we're not, lagging on this forever. But sometimes things are just what they are sometimes. And it's unfortunate. Let's see here. More. Speaking of upsets, Texas losing to Florida on the road. We, I guess, meaning me, we didn't, or at least I didn't predict this to happen. I thought Texas would win, but I thought it'd be a close game. Well, we got that, but Florida won. And, give credit where credit is due to Josh Pate for picking that this week, and also to one of the guys on Next Round who mentioned that, or at least the prediction was, I believe it was from Lance Taylor, I believe, on the Next Round Live, that I think he predicted that that Oklahoma was going to be 5-0 or undefeated, while Texas was going to have 2 losses. Golf clap. And of course, Josh Pate stole that from him, but whatever. That's not my business to talk about. But that's the reality now. Yeah, Oklahoma 5-0, Texas 3-2, heading into Red River. How about that? That's actually a real thing now. But hats off to Florida, man. Like I said on Twitter, finally on the other side of turnovers, they got 4 of them, I think, today, or 4 or 3. Like I mentioned on the game breakdown earlier in the week, look, I understood the whole stigma about, hey, look, the team hasn't quit yet, totally, or at least on a major sample size from, at least from last year and this year now, or at least quitting on Billy Napier, what I'm trying to say. Now, I will mention the LSU game, or at least towards the end of it, I thought they kind of quit a little bit, but for the most part, I do understand, yes, they have not totally quit on Billy Napier yet, and they didn't. They said they have not quit yet, which translates to Billy Napier, I don't think he's getting fired. At least right now, I don't think he is. Why not? There's no, excuse me. I guess we can check their rest of their schedule. But I mean, look, they may lose every game, but I at this point, at least from what I can tell at the moment, he's not getting fired right now. I think there's no incentive to have that happen. I mean, they're 2-3. They have Texas A&M next week. We'll see about that. Mississippi State, the Georgia game, will be in Jacksonville for at least the last time for the next couple of years, and then it's like Kentucky on the road, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State at home. Let's we'll see what happens. But I think the conversation with Billy and them, and well, look, they look good today, and DJ Lagway finally looked like the DJ Lagway we thought we were going to get all year, at least going into the year. I think the conversation we're going to have with Billy, if he is indeed coming back next year, which it's looking a little bit more likely he is, and much to the chagrin of Florida fans, I think the conversation that is going to be had is, well, can you please start like this at the beginning of the year instead of, losing to USF and losing on the road at LSU like how you did? And look, I understand that, but I think the excuse that's going to be put out there, which, look, I think it's sort of valid, is that DJ Lagway was hurt in the spring and summer, or spring, summer, and fall. He did not have enough time to work with these, young receivers, and he just didn't have time to build chemistry of them. And I think you saw that in the South Florida game. You saw that in the LSU game. You saw that in the Miami game. We're not used to playing with each other. Now you saw that sort of get packaged up today in a huge win. Can they translate this to winning, 6 or whatever straight games? I don't know for sure. It's not a guarantee, but they look good today defensively. That's not been the problem for them. They look good today. They got turnovers again. They're on the other side of those. Finally, so good for Billy Napier. I don't think he's getting fired now. I think we can sort of put some water on the fire here at the moment. But as they say, it can always rekindle if more losses come around. But good for them, man. This is a bit of a, I guess they restart the clock, for Billy Napier. But for Texas, like I said with Penn State, kind of is what it is, You kind of get what you pay for. Archie Manning, my opinion of him has not changed. He just is who he is. I guess today looked a little different with the turnovers. There's that. Not to mention, it's on the road, first time, and in the swamp, program history. But it just is what it is. They are not a good offense. Defensively, they're reasonably okay. I mean, you give up 29 points. I think you should imagine that's good enough to at least get close to win the game, or actually win the game outright. But what I worry with Texas, and I think the comparison for them, Texas as a team this year, very similar to that 2018 Auburn team, which had a really good defense, but the offense was kind of meh most of the year, and eventually they started to kind of crumble for almost at certain times during the year. That to me could be Texas, and their schedule, by the way, if we look at it here, let me find it here. Texas schedule. I believe they have a bye week at some point in the future. Let's see here. Get to their schedule. So they have Red River next week. Then they have Kentucky, Mississippi State. I think you should win 2 out of those 3 games. Vanderbilt, that's going to be tough. Then you have Georgia, Arkansas, A&M. So more losses are coming. I think this year for Sark is you can categorize it as a lost season. I think you can say that. They're just not a good offense right now. Defensively, they're fine, but, in terms of the offense, it just kind of is what it is. And we won't know until, spring and after the season what changes. If there are going to be changes, which I think there will be changes, we'll see what kind of changes are necessary for them. More. Let's see here. Florida State, Miami. I guess we can talk about this. Close game towards the end. I mean, here's the thing with Miami, and what really is kind of not frustrating, just kind of odd. It's like they built this huge lead, and Carson Beck looked pretty good tonight. Not perfect. Defensively for Miami, fine. But it's just, again, much like the Florida game earlier or just a few weeks ago, it's like they consistently build big leads. And then Mario, and this has been a trend for him his entire career, it's like you build a huge lead, and then you just get, really, really slow offense. The thing slows down after you build a huge lead, and that's the reason why a lot of these teams like Georgia Tech a couple years ago, and then Stanford when he was at Oregon, just let them claw back in because you don't chop off the head of the snake. You let them hang around, and that almost happened today with Florida State. It's they came back. I know the score looks a little bit better than what it actually looked like the entire game, but that's the Mario Cristobal experience. That's kind of what you're going to get. Again, I thought the offense, for the most part, I mean the freshman kid, the number 10, I forget his name, I think Tony, I believe. By the way, nice tribute to Kyron Lacey, who, by the way, if you don't remember, he passed away back in February. But the Tony kid looks pretty good. I thought offensively at times he looked competent, but I don't know. Just again, it's the Mario experience. I don't know if I fully trust that team yet. But look, man, you get some of these big wins in these rivalry games on the road, or frankly anywhere, at home, on the road. That's momentum being built here, and this is a team in Miami that we use this term sometimes on the main show, like these takeoff teams or these takeoff type teams, or teams that are in takeoff mode. Miami could be a team in takeoff mode. They very much so could be. We'll see about that. Florida State, though, look, it just is what it is, man. I mean, the O-line got beat up today. Look, they're going against the best O-line and D-line combo in the country. Maybe not the best collection of players, but certainly the best combo of really good D-line, really good O-line. Florida State just ran into a more physical team. Tommy Castellanos looked like the Boston College version. He just is very erratic, especially when you're getting the Malzahn offense when you having to throw the ball. That's basically a death sentence. You guarantee you're going to lose the game. That kind of happened today. Just it wasn't good enough. Too many mistakes, turnovers. It just was it is for Florida State. I know a lot of folks may be crapping on Norvell and being like, oh, Norvell is reverting back to last year. Last year's team would have, that team, that final score would have been 28-0. Would not have been a very competitive game. Give credit to Florida State. They took advantage of, Mario and Miami sort of shelling up and, shutting down the whole operation there in the second half, or at least around the third and fourth quarter, or late third, early fourth quarter. So, you got to give them credit for that, taking advantage of Miami offense that has a tendency to do that. And I think this team should be okay. I know it sucks, losing two in a row and whatnot, but I think Florida State's going to be okay. I think they're going to be okay. Now, does this mean they're going to go make a run to Charlotte for the ACC championship game? Probably not. Could they make it to a 9-win, 8-win season? Yeah, that's on the table still. Yeah, sure. But if Castellanos was your leading rusher, I don't know, man. It just, I think for Florida State, if they're going to be a successful team this year, or at least successful in terms of winning more than 7 games, they cannot have Tommy being, him having, 30 plus passing attempts. That's no bueno. Okay. He's not, you saw that interception. I think he threw 2, right? I think one of them was a really weird, people say a weird balloon muffin ball. It's just that's not his game, man. His deep ball, it was really bad last year, and it's been bad his entire career. I think you sort of saw that, that Boston College version of him come back today for FSU. So, as long as that doesn't happen, I think they're going to be okay. And they will not face a physical team like this again until, I don't know, I guess the Florida State game, the Florida game, maybe the Clemson game. But speaking of physical, Alabama 30, Vanderbilt 14. This score, again, much like the Florida State game, doesn't tell the full story. I thought this was a very competitive game. Bama started to flex their muscles late. They got, the main difference in this game was that Bama was more physical than Vanderbilt was. That just kind of is what it is, right? Pavia, the turnovers, that's obviously the kind of the padlock, Josh Pate padlock stat type of situation. But hats off to Bama, man, and Kalen DeBoer. They looked good. Defensively there was some breakdowns, and they allowed that huge run. They looked fine. But what I worry with Bama here, even in a win like this, while the score looks good, I guarantee you nobody leaving Bryant-Denny Stadium and wearing red and white, or crimson and white, feel good about a 30-14 win. I wouldn't feel good about it. There's a lot of things that I still don't trust about them. Yes, they look good in the second half, and I'll give them credit for that. But I still don't trust them. I don't. And I think there was times today where you saw the old, or I don't know what I put on Twitter earlier. I guess like the true or the actual version of Bama sort of seeped in a little bit. The penalties, allowing big plays early. It wasn't necessarily the team that was in Athens last week that did a good job in, sort of confining Georgia. But, Bama, I just don't trust him yet still. I don't fully trust him right now. Yes, they look good, and I know the scoreboard looks really, nice and pretty, but, I don't know. I don't trust them. But good win for them. Vanderbilt, can't feel bad for Clark Lee and, GM, Barton Simmons and all of them. But good effort. Good effort. You showed up. You didn't get blown out necessarily. I know the final score says that, but sucks for them. But, they have, being Vanderbilt, they have opportunities later in the year. I know it doesn't feel good, right? Having, lost your or losing your first really big game. Probably one of the bigger games in program history, but you get bye a week, rest up. You get LSU at home. Pray your hands. You guys can't see me. The face cam's not on tonight. Get LSU at home. You got Missouri at home. That's Auburn at home. Kentucky, especially Auburn. Who knows where they're at that point. They could have an interim coach by then. But there's opportunities here to have a good year for them, and I'm not punting on them. They're fine. They're okay. There's no problem with Vanderbilt. They're fine. I know the folks in the AP poll will drop them out because they see through to the 14, but that's still a good team, and they're pretty good. More here. Trying to see here what else we can talk about. So we already did the Penn State game. Boise State, Notre Dame, kind of a boring game. Michigan, Wisconsin, same thing. Bryce looked pretty good. Justice Haynes, how about that? 117 yards. Cincinnati beating Iowa State. That's no surprise. Cincinnati was favored to win. No shock there. Now, what was a shock was Louisville losing to Virginia. That was an actual upset. Not an upset in terms of, Virginia beating a ranked Louisville team. No, if Louisville was not ranked, they were not the ranked team. Virginia was, but Virginia was not the favorite. Louisville was. I think a lot of folks in Vegas, including me, thought, yeah, that makes sense, right? Coming off a huge emotional win, can you get your team back? Golf clap for Tony Elliott and them. They got their team back. They looked pretty impressive. I know it was a close game, but still, that's huge for them to win and as a dog. But so that happened. Let's see here. Any other games to talk about? Clemson, North Carolina splattering. No, this does not mean Clemson's back. No, that's not. No, they disposed of a dreadful football team in North Carolina. So, no, that's not. I'm not going to sit there and say, proclaim that Dabo Swinney's back. No, that's not. I'm not going to do that. Nebraska, they beat Michigan State. Good for them. Mariola, 194 passing yards, kind of okay. Let's see here. UCF beat Kansas, or I know they lost to Kansas. Good for Jalen Daniels. TCU took care of Colorado. Looks like some of the scores here. I'm just reading these off, but didn't watch a lot of these games that much. We're sort of focused on the big games, like for example, Oklahoma looked pretty good, shutout against Kent. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio State, same, looked pretty good. Texas Tech over Houston, 35-11. That's actually not a small thing. That's kind of a big deal. That's pretty impressive there. Brent Morton looking good. Georgia looked kind of flexed their muscles a little bit. Though I will say though, the Boyle kid for Kentucky, not bad. So at least you have you look better than Zach Calzada or whatever his name is. I know there's still a couple games still going on, like Fresno, Nevada, and Duke and Cal. But, is what it is there, I guess. Thursday games, nothing, or Friday, nothing that meaningful. BYU sort of took care of West Virginia, so there's that. South Florida, same, taking care of business over Charlotte. So overall, it's somewhat of a interesting weekend. Certainly not a traditional surprise Saturday, not how it was a couple weeks ago, but still a very entertaining Saturday. And look, there's a lot of good games, man. Just because someone says that the slate is dumb, or not, I guess dumb or just boring, doesn't mean there's no fun. But yeah, so we'll be back. Of course, the main show will be back on Tuesday as usual. I think we're good for the afternoon. Looks like, of course, we have Bucks, Seattle tomorrow. I'll give my reaction to that. on the Tuesday show. Of course, we'll do the predictions for the coming up week. Huge week, by the way. So, on these big marquee Saturdays coming up next week with, Red River, we have Missouri, Bama, Indiana, Penn State, or Indiana, Oregon, which is where game day is going to be at. How about that? Then Auburn, Georgia. So a lot of big games to discuss and talk about. But of course, NFL tomorrow, Bucks, Seahawks, late game. So of course, we'll react to that on Tuesday. So that's it for the show, or just the reaction here. Again, a lot of stuff to break down here. I mean, we went 25 minutes long here. But again, apologies for the sound machine. It's kind of there too because it's late at night. But hopefully it's not too bad. But if it is in the comments, just let me know and we can adjust going forward with that. Hopefully it's not too bad of an issue, but I'm sure you guys can hear it. But as long as you can hear me, that's fine. But this is not not the whole traditional show. It's more laid back here. So that's it for this. So enjoy the games tomorrow, NFL games, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday. So take care, and we'll see you then.